In 1983, the second Monster Manual was printed and released for first edition Dungeons & Dragons. And inside this encyclopedia of creatures was a monster specifically designed for one purpose: be near undestructible. Yes, not indestructible, Gary's words, not mine. A creature designed to be so resilient that even the high-level adventurers of the past would struggle against it. And now, more than 40 years later, you've clicked on this very video to harness such terrible power. Do you understand what you're asking of me? It's an apocalypse in the form of our gargantuan Godzilla-inspired gecko throwing a temper tantrum with calamitous rage. You're sure about this one? I mean, fine, you're a little justified. Your players have murder-hoboed every NPC that gives them a smug look. I mean, they may burn down your custom-made villages for a little extra loot here and there, but they're your friends. And, alright, that one particular session at the Royal Ball was a total fiasco. But I mean, honestly, who could have known that that specific night's choice entertainment would be such creative liberties on how to violate the sanctity of life? It made it pretty memorable, at least. Yeah, I'm not making this any better for them, am I? Okay, look, I may not be able to dissuade you from this path, but what I can say, with great hesitation and a smidgen of excitement, I'ma teach you how to the Tarrasque. Hey, sorry to interrupt here. I have a special surprise for this video in store near the very end, so stick around to find out what that is, or skip ahead like a loser and ruin the surprise for yourself. Look, the Tarrasque isn't some run-of-the-mill creature you can just fire from the hip with. Hell, it isn't exactly the best monster to chuck at your level 20 characters either. It's hilariously cramped between the oversimplification of new rules and horrifying lore that makes other legendary monsters run and hide under their blankies. Now, if you're familiar with my channel and its inner workings, you may know I'm best suited to making videos within the 30-minute marker. But as for today, as you probably have already noted when you clicked on the video, I may have overshot that by a teeny tiny amount. But that's not the point. The Tarrasque is a legendary and original creature. I think it deserves my full, undivided hyperfixation. So, our goal today for you and me is quite elementary, my dear Watson. Watsons? Watsons. What matters is that we need to get in there, figure out what the Tarrasque can and can't do, and finally unravel how this monster can simultaneously be the strongest beast in all the land, able to rip mountains asunder, and yet also lose to a single bird with a cantrip. So here's the official, unofficial, rough and tumble roadmap of today's mountain of a video. Disclaimer, we will have water breaks, bathroom stops, a small section for petting the dog, a little surprise at the very end, and a whole 5 seconds of silence. 1. Off the bat, I'll only be covering the Tarrasque's most important information. I won't be jumping into all of its lore, even if it feels like I'm doing just that. I'll be generalizing quite a bit with all of the numbers and stats and histories and more. But don't worry, I will be bringing up reference images or quotes each time it's needed. I'll also be placing down below a few links for you to look into the Tarrasque's more detailed history if you want a full picture. Number 2. The Tarrasque is a very old monster. It has quite a few changes addition to edition. So, while I'll be covering the skills, abilities, and talents this monster has from each edition, what I won't be covering is a full historical breakdown of everything it has to offer. So, although I'll be hitting key parts for context, I'm not going to be doing much more. If you want a full historical video, I recommend Mr. Rex's video on the Tarrasque as a supplement instead. Link below. Number 3, I'll be talking about mechanical rules in heavy detail to correctly clear the way for all the changes I'm going to recommend. And trust me, it is going to be a long, bumpy ride for all of us. So bear with me here. If my interpretation, explanation, or even understanding of a rule or ability is outright different or crazy or strange, Just know, moving forward, I'm juggling quite a bit here, and I'm aiming to be as accurate as possible with a ton of information, but I am, after all, only human. And my goal is to help you use this monster without it keeling over to birds with short bows or moonwalking over the nearest level 20 party with no hope of victory. It's a very fine line we're going to be dancing on here, everybody, so let's be courageous and give this one our best shot, shall we? And finally, as per usual, I'll be providing tips, tactics, and more for using this monster in many of the situations you may want. That means discussing ecology, behaviors, habits, diet, and more for this behemoth of a beastie. So if you didn't come here for fun, nerdy facts with synergistic strategies to inject into your own games, Get the fuck out! What are you doing here? So from tip to tail, what is a Tarrasque? To oversimplify, the Tarrasque is an overgrown lizard with hyper-durable magic-reflecting skin, an HP pool the size of Texas, poor eyesight, 3 stomachs that can kill God, yes, we will be talking about that one later, and a sleep schedule somehow worse than my own. The Tarrasque puts the big in BBEG, sitting at a comfy gargantuan-sized beast with a strength and con score only mirrored by D&D's most powerful monsters that have ever been printed. It's referred to by those unfortunate enough to live long enough in the Forgotten Realms as a bad time, often described as a walking natural disaster with enough of a gluttonous appetite that entire cities, buildings, and all those people inside of it are not quite enough to sate it. Kind of like when a high storm meets an everstorm, it's really just like no building or rock or patron can really save you. You just run and pray and try to survive as best you can. Bonus points if you know what I'm actually talking about. While the CR30 Tarrasque is a monster of myth and legend, I have to say from a pure how dangerous could it be perspective, it's sort of like a hungry, perpetually grumpy puppy the size of Godzilla. It's certainly scary, but not quite the world-ending game-concluding threat Dungeons & Dragons has you believing. And many other threats like the Kraken, ancient great worms, avatars of various gods, and more seem to be splashier than the big gecko himself. And to prove my point, I would like to formally invite you to my new part-time job.
Thank you for riding with Turtle Bus Tours today. We explore the mighty, the mildly grumpy Tarrasque. Straight from the Monster Manual 5th edition, this lizard has plenty to offer each and every one of us. But don't worry, folks, we will be discussing all the updates we see in 5.5 a little later on in this video. Beginning our tour of this massive monster, you can see to our left that we have all of its base stats, quite an impressive array of physical stats, and some surprisingly low mental stats for a rampaging titan of a monster. I would say it's as dumb as a box of rocks, but that would be insulting to rocks. With the charisma and wisdom of your average Joe Schmo, it's probably not going to be picking up a date anytime soon. Well, that, and there's only ever really one Tarrasque. Talk about horrible, crushing loneliness, folks. I could never relate. Just up ahead, we have an appropriate HP pool of 600, an envious AC of 25, and a humble 40-foot walking speed. Although it can't burrow or climb, I'm sure it doesn't have to deal with Baldur's Gate traffic like the rest of us. And down to our right, you can actually see plenty of attacking options, and its ghastly, frightful presence very spooky. Now, some of you more astute passengers may have noticed those wonderful immunities and its minuscule saving throw bonuses right below us. Although I'm sure, even though these puny things it has nothing to worry about. It's not as though someone's gonna burn through all of its legendary resistances and spam true polymorph until it fails or anything, right? Right? Well, you can actually see from here that the Tarrasque's unique ability to stomach nearly any and all things it consumes by swallowing it whole is unmatched. Known to unhail trees, rocks, and buildings of people alike, the stomach of this kaiju-inspired monster is the stuff of legends. And I can't personally drink coffee without an upset stomach, so seeing how much of and specifically what the Tarrasque eats could explain why it's always so grumpy. But now I'm imagining Tarrasque-sized poops. Ugh. And finally, wrapping up our tour this evening is our final stop, the center of the Tarrasque's strength, that reflective carapace. Not quite the mirror shine you might expect, yet still reflective enough to deflect nearly any spell under the right condition. Just one liner attacking spell, and boom, bada boom, you got a 1 in 6 blasting yourself back to Kingdom Come.
Whew. And that is going to conclude our tour for today, folks. Thank you all so much for joining me on this journey through D&D's most iconic monsters. Please remember to subscribe in the gift shop, and if you want, you can leave a like or a comment for me on our app. All of your support is appreciated by my upper management. Let's both hope if I meet quota this month, they'll stop calling me Stinky. Now you can see on the official stat block from 5th edition, we have this massive monster with terrifying damage output, big HP numbers, and a couple of tricks up its sleeve, but not much more. And I think that's more of an issue, once again, by the way, with 5th edition. But why is that the case? Like I said with the Chimera, knowing what you're working with is only about half the battle. Understanding how a monster has its parts and its pieces are another important factor of monster creation. But this one's so huge, where the hell do I even start with this one? I suppose the past is as perfect a place as any, all the way back to the original Tarrasque. Way back in the good old days of dusty old 1983, the Tarrasque wasn't that much different than what we see today. Really just a 6-attack slinging 300 HP rocking monster with immunity to psionics. Sure, I'm underselling it a bit, but it's the 1st edition, I'm not really sure what to tell you. No, I think the major sticking points to me here is its immunity to psionics and a very interesting rush ability. Both are something that I think really helps define the Tarrasque as an iconic monster in 1st edition. It's said to not really have a mind of its own, no thoughts or reasoning, just a force of anger and destruction set out to eat and destroy and sleep and eat and destroy and repeat forever and ever. Although, another point is that you can tell the 5th edition artists actually attempted to copy the essence from the original artwork and did so successfully. But outside of the basics here, 1st edition hasn't much else to go off of. Shifting us forward about 6 years, straight into 1989, 2nd edition officially drops, and the Tarrasque gets a good-looking makeover and a significant shoring up of its skills and features. Although, I can't help but to see it as a Deathclaw more than a Tarrasque here for its artwork. And shout out to my dad, actually. He gave me this really cool monster manual forever ago when I first was starting my D&D journey. And by the time he actually gave it to me, 5th edition had dropped and I had already moved on to that. But I will say it's so relevant here because... Look at this thing. Look at this thing. It is in great condition too. He did a great job keeping it together. It has helped me with a ton of videos so far, and it has the Tarrasque in here. The pages are like very delicate. I don't want to open it too much, but I did use it to actually make part of this video, so wanted to give a shout out to my dad for that one because it's very cool, and I do use it a lot, by the way, Dad. But I try to keep it in good condition and keep it out of the way, but it's right here in front of me, so thanks. And while still rocking about 300 HP and many of its oldest gimmicks, the 2nd edition Tarrasque gets plethora of goodies, earning itself an official regeneration that, although slow at 1 HP per round, is immensely potent. Paired with the fire, poison, and disease immunities it earns, it's pretty hard to put down officially, allowing the monster to regenerate from nearly any wound, no matter how severe or how chunky of salsa it gets blown into. The legends surrounding the Tarrasque say that only when it is finally within negative HP ranges could one use the Wish spell to stop its persistent healing factor from putting itself back together again. It also finally gets access to a Frightful Presence feature, paralyzing, literally, all but the most powerful of heroes in place. And even if they could manage to resist this, they still might turn tail and run, regardless of the saving throw. And it's worth noting that at this age of D&D, it's based on HP pools and how much dice is based in that HP pool on whether or not heroes or monsters got a save or whether or not they automatically failed. I think it's a very interesting thing. I don't know if they should pull it back into 5th edition. I don't know. That's up to you guys. But even those running away from it aren't safe because it officially gets a double damage on its horn attacks when charging once around, increasing its DPS and its movement significantly all at once. The biggest addition to this entire thing is its teeth. It gains the sharpness feature, slicing anything it bites clean in twain. Most armor, weapons, and limbs alike stand no chance, no matter what level or HP, as long as the gecko rolls high enough, that is. Critting gives you the slice feature on like 18s through 20s. It's weird, but it's cool. Honestly, for 2nd edition, the Tarrasque is really crazy strong, but with all things, time moves ever forward, and the Tarrasque evolved once again. Now, the 3rd edition variant is its own complicated story, landing us right in the year 2000. And, look, I'll be frank. I'm not quite polished up with how 3E works. Sure, I've played it, I've got some basic level of stuff, but I'm not too confident I can explain every change outside of the most common of things. I'm gonna do my best here, but if there's something wrong, just let me know, it's whatever. Top to bottom, the things that seem pretty much the same, albeit adapted to stay within 3E's frame of gameplay, happen to be these following features. It looks like the way you kill it by using the wish spell is staying the same. The healing factor, the fear effect, charge attack, 6-piece multi-attack that is finger-licking good, a high AC, dummy thick HP, a magical reflective carapace, and its immunities all are about the same. It does get some skills and abilities that are by the book, and by that I mean to say that these things follow the Tarrasque's historical feats pretty well. Things like the Tarrasque fearing targets on either attacking or charging, not just being nearby, its regeneration being 40, not a single point. Damage reduction 25, spell resistance 35, the swallow whole feat, blind fighting, and 40 feet of reach from tip to tail are all examples of what I mean here. Yes, some of the features are the same or transformed in some way, but really they are just better adapted to reflect the Tarrasque's true legendary history. And this edition in particular, or maybe it was 3.5, I read through a lot of information and I wasn't sure where this started, but it started somewhere around here in the timeline, so my bad if I misinterpreted as 3.5, not 3. This edition is where we get a good look inside of the inner workings of the Tarrasque's stomach, and more importantly, how powerful and generally horrible these 3 stomachs are for any creature. It's one of the only real, honest ways to destroy anything in the realms of D&D. I'm being completely literal. Anything. Theoretically speaking here, you could drop the Eye of Evecna, the Orb of Dragonkind, the Wand of Orcus inside of the Tarrasque's tummy, and it would just go away. Hell, even divine or immortal monsters can't escape from this type of destruction. Apparently, this specific kind, and it's one of a kind by the way, stomach acid, although not listed on a stat sheet, item block, or even a crafting ingredient list, is something so powerful that it can even kill gods. So, do with that information as you wish. Although, on an off note here, how on God's green earth does a Godzilla-sized freaky T-Rex thing dodge is beyond me. I guess he's just got the schmooze or something. Ooh. All in all, I think this is a perfect representation of the Tarrasque. It's immensely beefed up, it's lethal, and honestly, it's strong. But without a real frame of reference for 3rd edition, outside of some good experience with Pathfinder, which as far as my knowledge goes is actually based on 3.5, I'm not exactly sure I'm the most qualified to dissect the sheet any deeper than I have already. And I mean, technically speaking, I did forever ago start my D&D journey with low-level 3.5e games and adventures, only then quickly shifting to 5th edition like I mentioned earlier with its official release in 2014. Although admittedly, most of that was just homebrew and learning experiences for me and my friends as much as it was pure, unadulterated chaos. Not much official source material or references to be found many a times. So although my experience with 3.5 is limited, I can say with confidence that I think the Tarrasque is pretty perfectly designed here. But like with all things, time moves ever onwards. So to 4th edition we go. Oh, and this one's an oddball. Look, I have even less experience with 4th edition than I do with 3rd. In fact, I've had more than a few discussions saying that I just don't like 4th edition at all. I just don't like the basics. I don't like how it's worded. I don't like how it's referenced or formatted. I just don't like it. So much so that I've avoided the thing like the plague. And I only got this fucking book as a joke, just to say I have it. And hilariously, it has the Tarrasque in it too. I didn't even know that at the time. So, look, I'll do my best here, but again, no promises. I'm so unfamiliar with territory in 4th edition, so here we go! The first thing that catches my eye is the ability Earthbinding, an aura that pulls down flying creatures within its threat range and slows them to a pitiful 1 foot of movement per turn. A powerful aura that, honestly, I wish was adapted to later editions. This seems really good for the Tarrasque. Following that flavorful ability is plenty of offensive things it gets, like an AoE frenzy attack, another rush-like ability, it gets a tail attack, a bite attack that reduces AC, which is interesting, a burrow and a climb, it gets immunity to charm and fear, its damage resistance shifts to 10, it always ignores damage resistances, which is really cool, and it has over 1,400 HP and 40 plus AC. Oh, like I said, I don't know the scale of things, but that seems astronomically high to me. And although it has things like its immense fortitude, blind sight, high damage, and all other goodies, but what it loses here while gaining all these offensive options is it doesn't have a healing factor anymore. It's not immune to fire, poison, or disease anymore, and the traditional kill method is no longer the same. Instead, what it says is when reduced to 0 HP, it sinks back into the world's core to slumber. So there's no corpse left over, which is interesting. Now, this isn't an unheard of feature. It's pretty common information that the Tarrasque has some sort of Earth Glide-like feature, thus allowing it to find a quiet pocket of magma and stone a couple dozen miles down beneath the surface, and sleep a few months or years away at a time. But what's pretty confusing to me here is that it seems like this version of the Tarrasque is missing so much of what it once was. Most importantly, its immunities, its magic shell, by the way, it doesn't have a shell anymore, and not even considering all the small things it trades out for more attacking options, makes this version of the Tarrasque feel more bland. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just an observation because, again, I'm not familiar with like the 4th edition format that much, but it's an observation as we finally move through the past and into the present, with 5.5 East Tarrasque being... it's better than 5th editions. Doing a little side-by-side here, top to bottom as our order of operations, we're going to be looking through the lens of what upgrades and losses the 5.5 East Tarrasque is getting here. Now it gets about an additional 20 HP. Its initiative goes from 0 to 18, which is great, by the way, it's fantastic. Its movement speed increases from 40 to 60. It gets a burrow and a climb speed of 40 and 60 respectively. It gets changes to its saving throws, and the biggest one being a +9 dexterity where it once had 0. In addition, it gets the perception skill, although this one's a little confusing since it's said that its eyesight is supposed to be terrible. It's relying on its blind sight primarily for combat, that's why it has a huge blind sight radius. Maybe this skill in particular is referring to its hearing or smelling or maybe some sort of tremor sense. Not sure. Interestingly, they shift it from being immune to non-magical basic attacks to being resistant to all basic damage like bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Meaning that while technically it could die to a really lucky and persistent gopher, our heroes will have even more trouble killing it with magical weapons. Its immunities list tacks on deafness, which is pretty cool. Its passive perception jumps from 10 to 19, very nice. It gets a massive upgrade from 3 to 6 legendary resistances a day, which is just... wow, okay. Its reflective carapace actually loses the ability to deflect line spells here, which is really weird and off flavor to me. I'm not sure why they chose this. It already didn't deflect cones in 5th edition, so now it doesn't deflect lines either, which is like half of what made it so strong. A debuff in the number of attacks it gets, alongside of losing the horn attack option entirely, which is a complete flavor fail to me, by the way, completely off-putting. The bite and the swallow prevent teleportation, which is just hilarious. To me, it's just hilarious. The bite now also grapples. It doesn't restrain a target. It's a small but important difference. While it no longer is tied to the save, the tail now auto-knocks huge or smaller creatures prone, which is pretty convenient, actually. It gets a very strong breath attack-like feature in the Thunderous Bellow, something that lets it, like, attack those pesky birds that are hitting it. Pretty cool. The Swallow is a bonus action now, not an action, and is no longer required by the Tarrasque to actually hit the target with a bite first. Now it's only tied to a DC 27 strength save to a creature it already has grappled or attacked. While the legendary actions do get changed, they seem much more handy than 5th edition's choices. Onslaught is a classy rush. It gives the monster more speed and a free attack, very, like, as we've seen through history, it's pretty on point. And world-shaking movement is amazing for auto-breaking concentration for medium or smaller creatures. It knocks them prone and allows the Tarrasque to move once again. World-shaking movement is definitely the strongest one here, definitely out of every legendary action it gets access to. That is the best one by far. Ooh. Okay, water break, everybody. Get some water. Get some water. Are you taking care of yourselves? Stretching? Taking notes? Good, good. You better be taking care of yourselves. Well, actually, this is a good time for that, too. If you need to go to the bathroom or like, do anything real quick, I'll be here when you get back. We're going to take our 5 seconds of silence, so just kick your feet up. Alrighty, back to it. Now, finally, we have all the information in place. Every addition and feature on the table for us to look at for this video. So pretty clearly, Wizards took the insults that people were throwing at the Tarrasque and finally gave it the buffs it needed. This is a great direction for the monster, but it's not quite there yet. And out of all the changes the Tarrasque actually gets, my favorite is definitely the anti-teleport. The vibe that I'm getting from this is like somebody gets chomped and they're like, yeah, I'm a level 20 wizard, I can take 1 bite attack. They get swallowed, they're like, no biggie, I'll just teleport out. And then they just go, oh. Like, I just think that would just be so funny. It would be so funny. Okay, so to organize ourselves here are the primary facts and features from every edition put together. These are all the implied, referenced abilities from lore, the things that I find the most important about a Tarrasque. 1. The Tarrasque's shell will always deflect line and cone spells, magic missile spells, and direct spell attack rolls, with a 1 in 6 chance of a rebound. It's classic, it's historical, don't change it. 2. Its regeneration is potent, but it's not fast. It's nearly impossible to turn off. That's what makes it strong, save for the wish spell. 3. It has a feature to slice off limbs and cut through nearly anything with its teeth. Some editions say it has to roll high enough, others just say it can, or its weapons just ignore damage resistance. Let's keep it simple. The teeth are magical. 4. It has a low intelligence, but maxed out strength and maxed out constitution. 5. It has magical resistance. 6. It has a charge-like feature. It can always move and attack simultaneously. 7. A multi-attack combo that includes the horn, the tail, and the bite. It is normally 6 attacks. It doesn't have to be, but I think it is always necessary to have a mix of what attacks it is choosing from. 8. Its AC is normally 25 or higher, and it has immunities to fire, poison, and disease. 9. Frightful Presence. Normally a saving throw, sometimes not. I think whatever edition you want to pull this from, that's on you. 10. Stomachs. It has stomach acid strong enough to destroy artifacts and kill the unkillable, break the unbreakable, do the impossible, see the invisible, and of course roll well. 11. An Earth Glide-like ability when it surfaces or leaves to slumber. 12. A list of handy condition immunities commonly found like stun, paralyzed, charmed, and frightened. 13. Its resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, whether it be non-magical immunity or straight-up resistance to all of it. 14. Its size has almost never changed, being gargantuan-sized and 50 feet tall and 70 feet long. And lastly, its habits of sleeping often and waking only for short bursts outside of the few exceptions in lore. I think its other abilities mentioned in passing, like its immunity to psionics, enhanced criticals, and an earthbinding aura will be evaluated, but I do not think are included in the main parts of a Tarrasque. So now, after so long, we know what a Tarrasque is. But why is Tarrasque? In my lifetime of dungeon mastering campaigns and running boss battles, there's one thing I know for certain. Bosses can be pushovers no matter how big you make them. Yep, your all-powerful, super-duper evil boss can be nothing more than a paper tiger in a storm. And the Tarrasque sitting at CR 30 is one of those creatures. And I think it's about time you and I had the talk. You see, when a mommy player and a daddy player love D&D very, very much, they make the game master's life very difficult. What I actually mean to say here is that player characters in D&D have very splashy, very powerful resources they can utilize in a variety of ways. And a freshly rested group of level 13s could maybe actually possibly beat the brakes off of a Tarrasque in the right setting. Depending on magic items, a lot of time to plan, campaign setting theme, and more than anything, PC builds. Think about all the classes that have resource-dependent abilities, and think about how often they can just go supernova on a boss when freshly loaded up. Resources that by design are supposed to be drawn out over multiple grueling sessions or combat situations until finally the party is weak enough to make the boss a fair battle. You have to really make a boss in like games normally above the power level of the players somehow to make it like narratively high stakes, or you describe the event in such a way to prevent the players from just nuking the poor sap mid-monologue. However, it's not like every boss battle can have 15 encounters before it to pave the way to your ultimate battle. Look, you and I both know that that's just not how things always play out. So now we have bosses that by design on paper are made to be, I wouldn't say weaker, it's almost like they should be able to deal with threats that they're supposed to when these threats have fresh long rests under their belts. Bosses that are spellcasters get limited actions and spell slots. Tanks get a few ways to deal with casters and CCFX, and manipulators can't very well brawl with the barbarians, and so on and so forth. A sort of rock, paper, scissors effect for bosses that is not easily broken. And sure, there are certainly options in every Game Master's corner to make these bosses memorable. Minions, armies, super weapons, tricks, spells, and hell, even the very wizard being a planted spy for the BBEG since Session 1. And finally, on the last boss battle, the wizard turns against his party members for one last massive fight. But I'm not here to discuss fringe fixes. I'm not here to discuss the problems of 5th edition. I'm here to discuss this problem. The main problem needs to be addressed. The Tarrasque is a legendary creature, but it falls into this problem. It is a big, beefy monster with fast movement, great defenses, and very limited options. All along, the greatest weaknesses of like 90% of monsters I've found in D&D are literally just a lack of skills and abilities to pick from. I mean, honestly, think about the last time you saw a really original monster from Wizards of the Coast. One that didn't just recycle the same like 50 or 60 options or spells and just put them in a new order on a different flavor of creature. Now, that's a little bias. I am excited for the changes that we got in 5.5e, and there's other books that have been really great to me. Like Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is one of my favorite D&D books of all times, but that doesn't mean that it's a great place for D&D to settle in on. After all, games like Pathfinder and even D&D 3rd Edition are just completely uncontested for the number of options that you get as a player and as a dungeon master. It's just not the same. And by D&D being a more beginner-friendly game and oversimplifying literally every corner of every rule, it gets more than frustrating looking past the curtain for each monster and dragon and class. It's just not enough. So let's talk about how to get this party started, the why of a Tarrasque. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when a Tarrasque wakes from its super nap, it's out for two separate things: destruction and all the snacks in the city. Literally, all of them. You better feed him, he's hungry. It uses its earth glide-like movement to rise through the crust of the earth, rising like a fish from water, landing in a new location, wrecking havoc, eating everything, and maybe fighting anything that gets too close to it. And it goes on this rampage for a week or two, in some extreme cases a month or more. And then finally, sinking below the horizon to go back to sleeping. Now, this can be your sticking point for the why. Why is the Tarrasque waking up? Why is it moving in this new specific location? Why is it moving north? Why is it not going to sleep after you fed it and petted it and called it a good boy? So imagine with me, rather than the players going through trial after trial, fight after fight, and landing in the boss room and finally dealing with the boss when they're exhausted and on their last legs, why not put it in reverse? The players are now the ones wearing down the boss. They're attacking the Tarrasque over and over and over and over and over until they can finally amass the resources, skills, and powers needed to take it down for good. Now that's interesting. Now for this example, I'm going to be guessing that players could be levels 11 through 16, and this isn't to say that like levels 11 through 16 aren't crazy overpowered, but this is just sort of to bar them from 9th level magic, just because for the narration's sake. But in this case, they can't just outright fight the Tarrasque. Sure, I get it. You can have an OP build at level 5. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they can try. They maybe could win in a one-on-one, but not realistically here, especially with the upgrades I'm going to offer later. Let them hit it over and over and over. Let them assume what they need to do. Let them attack it, but don't let it fall over. Let them do hit and runs, small plans over a full week in-game. Draw the encounter out to more than one singular event. Have them slow it down, injure it, keeping it hurt until it's too tired to fight back on the final assault. That is the plan. Not fighting it, not killing it, but wearing it down. Only then being able to take it down in a massive battle with all their allies and using the all-important wish spell to keep it down for good. As a game master, this is why the healing factor is so important, but should not be overwhelming. It keeps the players from just hitting it for like 100 points a day and then just leaving to long rest. It puts into question how long they can actually realistically fight this thing for, how much pressure they can keep on the Tarrasque before their plan is really in motion. It gives you, the game master, a huge advantage in terms of timetables. You can brew up groups of humans taking advantage of the lack of heroes to raid and pillage, villains trying to control this beast and getting in the way, monsters running from areas away from the Tarrasque and clustering into new locations that were once peaceful. Make the Tarrasque and its entrance more than big monster, please kill it. The world is forever changed by its arrival. You don't have time to stop and gawk and loot. If you don't stop it, it will destroy everything in a singular line. That is what's at stake. But to get the Tarrasque that far in, to keep the Tarrasque pushing day in, day out, is this. Give the Tarrasque a healing factor of 10 or more HP around. Enough that a short rest could bring the Tarrasque back up to full health, but it's not enough to shrug off blasts of Divine Smite either. Now, you could swing for 20 or even 30 HP. It really depends on the level of opposition that the Tarrasque is looking at. If heroes can sling out hundreds of points of damage in a turn for multiple turns in a row, consider something more drastic. But if they can only supernova for like 200 HP and then trickle in about 100 or so damage over the course of a round or two until they are themselves too battered to continue, it matters less about what the number actually is and the fact that their best shot, everything they could offer, every idea and talent that they had at their disposal was not enough. And they need to reevaluate how to kill this thing for good. The Tarrasque should be an enemy that can't just be defeated by brute force, no matter how supernova they can go. The party needs to wait for reinforcements. They need help. They need to keep it weak and tired. They need to play the game your way until they can finally play it their way. Reward them for good thinking, though. Don't just railroad them into death. Allow for good planning. Put roadblocks, not railroads, in the way of their brute force. If they can kill your bad guy, so be it. It happens. It happens. But don't let it go to waste. Every combat, win or lose, is an opportunity for role-playing and storytelling. Remember, some versions of the Tarrasque don't die so easily. Some just reawaken another Tarrasque in a different location. Others just can't be killed and sink into the earth to slumber. Your options here are bountiful, your villainy never ending, but making the monster better equipped to not just keel over at the first cheesy attack or spell should be on your wish list of things to fix. Therefore, if you want to really drive this point home, give it a mutable form. A common ability seen in many legendary monsters, preventing any specific unforeseen changes to its body. Now let's talk about introductions. Imagine with me a Tarrasque bursting through the very ground itself in the middle of the capital city. The players, only levels 5 through 10, have no chance. It's pandemonium. The city is on fire. The worst event in recorded current history, and all your party can do is flee and hide from this unbeatable foe. Maybe they're looking for help or looting the now guardless magic item shop. No judgment, but after an hour of devastation, uncalculable loss, and irreplaceable damages to peace, it leaves, sinking back into the very ground. Some say it was fate or the gods willing. Others are just thankful it's over. Sure, event over. The world turns on, the city begins repairs, and like the disaster that it was, the city rebuilds with what it can. The party is sent on one errand or another, helping and adventuring in their time here or there. But word arrives about a month later. Another city, far, far away, another capital, razed to the ground in an hour. A knot of panic begins to form in every major city from here to the Sword Coast. Merchants slow down trade, people move away from the cities en masse, churches sing for guidance, and the heroes of our story, what are they doing? Do they hunt down for leads? Do they goof off? Maybe they prepare to fight the beast in honorable combat the next time it shows its stinking lizard face. And the cycle continues. Each month, a new city is completely gone within the hour. The world is in panic. Heroes are lining up in cities and wait anxiously like bodyguards. High-level groups gather to lure it out. Others investigate the strange way it's hunting. And now your players, one of the few groups of high-level characters left, are tasked with this responsibility. Find out why or who or what is happening to the Tarrasque's sleeping habits and stop it for good. This story, which you are more than free to steal by the way, points to the Tarrasque's most underutilized and not really talked about ability. As you may have guessed my next recommendation, give it Earth Glide twice a day. The ability to move through solid stone like water even if it never uses it for much more than leaving or arriving. The Tarrasque can just sort of pop up out of nowhere. That's what makes it scary to me personally. Just one bad day with Lady Luck, and you're facing down a very hungry gecko the size of a building. Now let's take this conversation up a few notches and throw this bad boy at people who can really fight back. Player characters of levels 15 through 20. The players see signs of a Tarrasque awakening, seismic activity, magical phenomenon, whatever choice of theatrics you choose is fine, but it's coming and it's very upset. They prepare, they batten down the hatches, they even conjure a book with every single page being a bomb. To be frank, they're OP. They're gonna do OP shit that you didn't even know was possible. They will mind control entire civilizations to fight for them. They will make literal nuclear bombs out of nothing but bags of holding and tape. They will even convince God to come down and smite the Tarrasque the moment it shows up. No, I'm not joking. Divine intervention's funny like that. So the big bad Tarrasque shows up and then immediately gets the business end of all the metagaming and min-maxing D&D has to offer. And on paper, it keels over within 1 to 5 rounds. So how do we remedy this? I mean, by CR, this thing should be damn near one of the only threats a level 20 party can fight on semi-even footing, right? So let's talk about this whole getting your ass kicked by Frederick the level 20 cleric. And to do so, we need to talk about strength. And more than literally, I mean strength scores as a whole. And why, for the love of God, does the incarnation of destruction and death and gluttony only have a 30? This is the part of the video where a lot of you are going to get lost or confused or argumentative, and that's perfectly okay. Look, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. People are going to disagree or agree, but my goal here is to just broaden your horizons, say my piece, and then move on, okay? To my eyes, there are only 3 dependent factors for strength currently. One is size, the second is power, and the third is execution. Think about a cow, a barbarian, and a dragon flesh abomination. Yet, all of them have an 18 strength. Why is that? What makes them different? Is it muscle density? Is it weight? Leg types? Is it the ways that they can use their strength? Is it magical muscles? Is it training? Creatine intake? I went to Reddit some time ago and asked a very similar question. What is 30 strength? And so I ask you, dear listener, what is 30 strength? Not in a Tarrasque, not in a player character, but what is 30 strength, period? And the responses I got back were varied. And here's a couple that got me thinking. Yoda's tiny lightsaber, by the way, funny name. D&D is not a very good physics engine, but it is fun. I would say that if you went to the trouble of building a PC with 20 strength, he could do any of the stuff that Conan, the barbarian, not the talk show host, could do. Anything beyond that is Marvel, DC, or Dark Horse Comics land. You want to punch a wall down? Sure, why not? You want to throw a horse as a projectile? Make a roll. You want to catch a boulder thrown by a giant and toss it back at him? Yeah, sure. The point of these super outrageous one-note builds is that 30 strength is picking up a space shuttle territory. You are Superman at that point, not a man. Satisfaction Special 2 says, I'm going to point you to page 8 of the 3.5e Player's Handbook. It has a bunch of lists for the average strength score for creatures. And he says, basically, I would translate it as a combination of physical strength as well as how well you can apply that strength. An ant can carry its weight multiple times over, but you will not see it getting a 30 ability score in any system. 5e is just hand-waving everything in favor of simplicity, and in favor of keeping the PC scores capped for balance purposes. So you can't really find an answer there. And lastly, RPG2Tface says, honestly, I think variant encumbrance shows off strength scores better. That's more like what's comfortable, difficult, and barely possible to carry around. Stage 1, you can do it all day. Stage 2, it's a hard job. And Stage 3 is trying to be a strong man, and you're just barely able to take a step or two. With anything after that, up to double that weight, is speed of 0. Using these rules, I'm at about 15 strength because I can regularly flip over a sheet of steel weighing about 500 pounds. I can't carry it around or anything, but getting it off the ground or sliding it a few inches is technically possible. Under this example, if I had 30 strength, I could carry around a pack of stuff weighing 150 pounds all day and barely move something weighing 900 pounds. And that would basically just be a deadlift or a squat, but much more representative. And examples of strongmen lifting that much or more can be found. And he goes on to talk about how this actually impacted him in his real life and how hiking felt different on how this would actually play out in real life. Here's the dealio. Strength is sort of the short straw of the D&D world. It is powerful. It certainly has its high-end numbers all over the place, but it's not quite good. I don't exactly agree with any of these comments fully, but I love the perspective they give. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. They are all very logical, well thought out, functional ideas. They have real life perspective behind them. They're based in older rules. They have superhuman angles, and all of them have very clear places at any table if you want to add them. I'm not saying that I don't agree with them because they're wrong or stupid. I'm saying this is because that's not how I personally see strength. But I intentionally wanted to set my view of strength aside and gather other people and their concepts of strength to share alongside my perspective. It's not always beneficial for me to use just my perspective to educate, especially when it comes to concepts so abstract as this one. I like asking for help and seeing how the world approaches the same question I'm pondering. So I ask once again, what is 30 strength? With a gargantuan creature able to tear apart castles like tissue paper and munch on boulders like meatballs, 30 strength, to me, doesn't feel right. With the Tarrasque being, all things considered, a very big monster, it's not as cool or awesome as the Zaratan, obviously, because turtle supremacy. The sheet does give the Tarrasque siege monster to help reinforce its big, strong nature, but its strength doesn't do anything. It allows for interpretation, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't automatically do many things for being big or strong. An intelligent creature gets to plot or plan more effectively for being more intelligent, not linearly, exponentially. A charismatic creature has the same benefits. They can persuade or lie to an nth degree better than a regular person could. But strength doesn't do that, at least not in 5th edition. So I ask again, what is 30 strength? What rules are you using? What is your perspective on strength? Is it superhuman? Is it average? What is 30 strength? What rules are you going to use? I think to use a monster like this, you need a solid, fundamental understanding of what strength is and how you're going to use it at your tables for this monster. All stats are capped at 30, but I believe that the Tarrasque and other gargantuan monsters should have the ability to raise this score higher, similar to the capstone feature for Barbarian Primal Champion, allowing for a 24 rather than a 20 in strength and constitution. Now, adding strength here doesn't really change the math that much for its attacks. It does change the saving throw DCs, but genuinely that's not the point here. It's in a message that you're sending that these monsters are not grouped with others for a reason. They are in their own weight class. They are anomalies, forces of nature beyond fighting in every way imaginable. And I personally think that strength in your table should follow a scale of some sort, whether it be linear or exponential or jagged or whatever you're doing with it. Make it clear that it's up to you and your players to interpret these roles and abilities and stats together. Make it clear that 10 strength is your average person in the setting. Are people in that setting, your magical setting, like you and me? Is 10 strength not only common, but what is it? To what degree is 11 strength on a person like? Can they be more fit? Are they clearly able to lift more? then what is 12 strength compared to a 10 on that same person? Is this same logic going for gargantuan-sized monsters? Does a gargantuan monster really have a difference between 25 and 30? And what is that difference? Ask yourself what each of the end of the scale means, and how you're using this strength inside of your setting. Not just the real world here, but in a place of magic and fantasy where feats of strength will be legendary, not just average. And again, this really depends on your setting. Like if this is a high magic setting, does that change how strength is represented? Does low magic change how strength is represented? Is this more realistic or more fantastical? And that's up to you. And if you're gonna listen to me, if you're gonna make the Tarrasque have a 40 strength, define it by showing it. Show it ripping into the earth like nothing. Throw buildings or cattle with ease. Stomp civilization flat. Don't give it a second thought or a saving throw. Narratively show that the monster that is in front of them is beyond wrestling, beyond understanding. But just because it is beyond understanding, it is not beyond fighting. And when they go to stress test it, when they ask if they can arm wrestle it, or if they ask to pin it down with adamantite wire, don't stop them. Actually encourage them. Let them test it out. Figure out why it's so strong together, how it's using its strength, as a table of people playing this wonderful game. Describe its movement better, how it plants its feet, how it strikes, how it breaks free or grapples. How strength is used is just as important as the score. Let a barbarian who's grappled in the mouth pry it open like a fucking superhero. But make it close. I mean, it might have a 30 strength now, but how strong is the bite force compared to its striking force? It's gotta be something crazy to eat boulders, don't get me wrong, but just the same, a barbarian with legendary status and 20 plus strength in a much better position could actually hold the mouth open or arm wrestle it. I don't know. It's up to you. Trying to tie this whole mess of a stat into a nice little bow and move along here, just remember that the Tarrasque is a legendary monster after all. I think that you and your table should use these suggestions by myself and by the others I asked about it to help define strength at your own tables. Make your own perception of strength, make your own solutions to problems, and have a fun time with it. So, to wrap this up, feel free to tinker with the Tarrasque's strength score to make it far more of an interesting fight. Even if you need to, give it an additional 10 strength or something, so it can, technically lift an entire top half of a magical metal skyscraper and, shake all the yummy people into its mouth like a Pringles can. Whatever upgrades you decide to move on with, I think my recommendation is officially the Tarrasque should have a 35 strength. It just makes sense. And although it changes the math on the push, pull, and lift, the damage doesn't really change that much, and that's what really matters for this kind of upgrade. It already hits like a truck. It doesn't need to double dip on damage. It's about getting the narrative angle down and giving it the ability to do things that normally wouldn't be able to be done. Things like picking up an entire building and throwing it at somebody and being like, oh, well, that's 500 bludgeoning damage because it's a building. That's what I want you to be able to use it for, not just having to roll and do math and this and that. Give it enough strength to do the things you want narratively, and that's all. But when tossing this big boy up against Earth's mightiest min-maxers, the Tarrasque is going to need every upgrade it can get. Give back its sharpness feature on the bite attack. Shred limbs on every critical hit. And speaking of criticals, let it crit on 18s and 20s on its bite attack. This will allow the Tarrasque to be more cinematic. Next up, this big boy's defenses, and outside of giving it back protection from lines and cones with its magical turtle shell, I think it's fine to leave the reflective carapace as it was represented in 2024. Immutable form is a must-add, as mentioned earlier. It's gonna protect you from a lot of other cheesy shenanigans, but also make the fight actually worthwhile. Make its bite attack a pseudo-magical attack, meaning that certain enemies, looking at you, Clay Golem, won't just shrug off a chomp attack from Godzilla's hungry little brother. It can be something similar to the Monk's ability, if you're looking for a rule to equate this to. Holy, my throat is very dry. Hold on, I'm gonna take a drink. Now, you could try your hand at an earth-binding ability that was seen in 4th edition, but like, the fucking script's like 30 pages long, man. Just do your own homework if you want to do it, okay? And finally, giving it the healing factor of 10 or more HP around makes slogfests of combat feel a little bit more in favor of the Tarrasque. Now again, we are tippy-toeing the line between an unstoppable walking disaster and a plot hole-ridden BBEG of a monster. I wouldn't add all of these upgrades to the Tarrasque out of the gate, but you can certainly do it and then some depending on the millions of factors at play. I would recommend instead brushing up on your magical item rules and seeing what sort of damage, skills, and spells your party has available in much more detail, and then work on upgrades. Seeing what they have to offer and then contesting it, not countering it, contesting it, is better. You don't want to just make their builds completely worthless with upgrades. You want to make the Tarrasque strong, but don't just directly counter them. That's such a dick move. Don't do that. And these small changes are really only part of a whole fix here. We have made huge strides in covering the monster's weakest parts, without pulling too far away from the history of this big lizard. But if we're going to talk about big changes, the stomach needs to come next. As mentioned earlier, the Tarrasque's stomach is one of the only places that gods and artifacts alike can meet their true end, at least in legend. I think a creature swallowed by the Tarrasque isn't just fighting against the muscles of the lining, or even the acid of its stomach, but all the rocks and trees and people and more being ground up and melted down all at once. I think it's a 3-step process, moving from one stomach to another, and finally meeting your end in this horrible, gross place. Now, I am taking slight liberties from the official canon, but I liked this idea too much not to share it. And feel free to steal it if you want. I think the Tarrasque should have a 3-stage stomach combo. It starts in the first stomach chamber, a massive place where bone-like spikes and impossibly strong muscles grind and blend and smash the largest pieces of the Tarrasque's meal and make it easier to digest and move to the second chamber. When a creature is first swallowed by the Tarrasque, it lands in this place, constantly shifting around and being thrown to and fro. The target takes 10d6 bludgeoning damage at the start of the turns and is under the same conditions as normal when swallowed this way. When a target begins a new turn in the first stomach chamber, they make a DC 27 strength save to not be pushed into the next stomach. If they fail, it's pretty bad. Because here's where most of the acid resides, squeezing and sloshing the items within its second stomach with 16 d6 acid damage each turn. Once again, this stomach attempts to keep pushing targets to the worst of the 3 chambers. A special place, a place where a very particular acid is made, an acid so potent that it melts any object chemically, magically, and atomically, stripping them down to literally nothing. The third stomach is much larger. It's a wider place than the other 2. A target that is within the stomach takes 20d6 acid damage each turn, and any item that they are wearing or carrying on them takes this damage as well. Magical items will only take half or maybe even a quarter of this damage. Magical items that are reduced to 0 HP in this way are destroyed, and reduced to such nothingness by this acid that they can never be reformed. Creatures that die in this acid have their very souls melted away, unable to reincarnate or return. All magic they have and are is torn from them literally atom by atom. Now, as dramatic as this stomach is, it is slow. It requires multiple saves, and even is on a timer to kill, giving the player characters and their precious gear plenty of chances to get out. They can make the Tarrasque throw up, or they can even just kill the thing before it actually digests them. I like this concept a lot. It's a safe bet, and it's also quite hilarious as a win condition if your players need to use the Tarrasque against another immortal creature. Oh, hey, look at that. It's time to pet the dog. So to those of you who don't know, this is Goggles. He's a good boy. He's a very good boy. He's very sleepy right now. He's very sleepy. But he gets some love. He doesn't like being on this chair that much, but I didn't know how to get him in frame. You're a good boy. Yeah. You want a treat? You're a good boy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah, good boy. I'm gonna get him a treat real quick. Come on. So, normally on these how-tos, I make a point to do minimal changes, offer some homebrew, and enlighten you all on combat tactics, and then I usually dip before things get too long. But as you can tell, this video is pretty different. First of all, I'm behind a green screen, and you can actually see me, hi, and I seem to have put a lot more time and effort into this one. But in terms of things I normally do, all of my checklist is checked off. But I feel like I'm missing something. Something important. Something so imperative that I want you all to listen very closely. The Tarrasque is strong. On paper, it is supposed to be the strongest monster in all of D&D. But D&D is a big game. New monsters have popped up all over the place that could give our mega heavyweight champion a run for his money. And while looking at fringe cases like PC builds, environmental factors like it drowning, by the way, it could drown, or even players who somehow managed to build a moon laser that does 100 D4 radiant damage from space, all of those things could take a Tarrasque from a monstrous encounter to something lame, just a walk in the park. So, for our final length of our mountain of a journey, one more climb, everybody. One more climb to the very peak. Let me introduce you to a funny little thing I like to call Phase 2. You see, funny story here, a while back, I got this cool book called Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And although it has a plethora of goodies inside of it, it was actually the book itself that got me started on making these D&D videos. Like, honestly, this was the book that I drew inspiration from for the TPK or Bust series. And the Amethyst Dragon was the very first video of its kind, inspired by what I read in here. And if you've gotten a chance to read it yourself, you may already know what I'm getting at. And this one very specific rule that I found fascinating is one that only Great Worms and a couple of other special monsters have access to. It pretty much gives any of these crazy strong dragons a second phase when they get reduced to 0 HP, transforming them into more powerful versions of themselves, and getting about half of their total HP back in an instant. The biggest mechanical change is the accessibility of their mythic actions, a second wave of legendary actions that come online in Phase 2. Often being stronger or more useful legendary actions for the monster to pick from. In so many forms of media, from Dark Souls to Cuphead, there's something uniquely special about giving a boss a second wind, rising from the earth, and going on one last rampage against those courageous enough to have gotten this far. I think you should design your own Phase 2 for the Tarrasque, but I'll give you all a couple of nifty ideas that were bouncing around in my head for inspiration. I want the Tarrasque to be a mindless force of nature. And when it finally is injured enough to go full Phase 2, that's when it just starts lashing out at everything, including the world, smashing the very earth into broken, horrible cracks that bleed lava that conveniently the Tarrasque is immune to. This lava pools and bubbles and floods all around it, preventing any combatant from fighting on the ground. And more importantly, it lights the entire area around the Tarrasque on fire. Smoke, fire, lava, all these dangerous things begin to add up when you're already fighting a Godzilla-sized gecko. It could stomp and smash and split the ground in twain, opening up massive pits for characters to fall into. It unlocks a new type of attack, the throw. If chomping and biting doesn't work, it grapples a target and just throws them, skipping them like a stone across a lake. They may take dozens of points of bludgeoning damage, but they're going to take turns to get back into the combat. Now, things like the Tarrasque's roar could be an AoE rather than a cone. Its claws or hide would evolve and rapidly grow to combat the threats nearby, maybe adapting into a certain form or type, or even having an ability that is specifically designed to kill the things around it. Its appetite is swelling. It's hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. It's getting desperate. It's fueled by frenzy and anger and starvation. It allows it to make multiple swallow and bite attempts all in the same action, rather than just claws and horn attacks. It just makes multiple bite attacks in a turn. All of these amazing abilities, yet Phase 2 comes with a price. You see, the Tarrasque wasn't magically gifted strength. It's a natural defense mechanism to fight and rage and thrash about before it falls back asleep. It's not trying to win. It's trying to get away. It's a massive burst of energy, a healing factor that's pulling it back together, new actions and powers, yet after a few rounds, the players, they see the flaw in Phase 2. Everyone is exhausted, but it's getting tired. Every round that passes, its eyes are lulling, its reaction time is slowing, it's burning through its own reserves of fat and energy so quickly to fuel these newfound powers. One last gasp of energy before it's out of juice, and it'll fall into a deep slumber. They know how the legend works, and if it's not able to return to its lair, that's it. It'll just pass out right in front of them. They'll win. So the question becomes, will the Tarrasque get away? Can they defeat it in its new empowered form when they're already low on resources themselves? What is going to give first? Now, you can make the Earthglide ability something of a ritual that it needs time to focus on if it has no real means of running without being more safe. That way, thematically, it just can't just do this ability and then just dip out of there. When you make your encounter with the Tarrasque, I want it to be powerful. I want it to be near indestructible and everything you've ever wanted. Congratulations! You did it! We hiked this mountain of a video together. Just... wow. Just bask on the summit with me. Just all the endless possibilities on the horizon that stretches on forever. Your next amazing session is right over there. It's the next mountain peak that it's so close and yet so far away. And I believe in you. You can do it. And I hope that now that we're at the top of this mountain, you can look back with me. Back down the pathway that we've taken so long to climb. For a while now, on a more serious note, I've been having thoughts of inadequacy. For about 2 years now, I've been struggling to make a mark on YouTube and Twitch, and it gets to you sometime. And I look back on the first videos I've ever made, years ago when I tried to generate lip flaps for D&D Abridged, how ghastly it looks and how obnoxiously long it took me to learn them. And the dorky shorts I was making for D&D traps on TikTok with my phone, or my cringy how-tos or TPK or busts, the original ones with terrible audio and really bad editing. And just, it sucks to think about that, but it's also my new stuff too. All the things that I'm proud of, the things I'm excited for, the ones that took me weeks to make, like long nights. Like right now, it's like 3 a.m. and I'm recording this in my front room with a brand new setup that took me like 2 hours to set up and a month to get ready. And I'm so impressed with how far I've come. All that time that I sat in my room, typing, trimming, editing, and more, watching my own talent develop and evolve from something totally embarrassing at the beginning of the pathway to something I'm proud of, something that all of you precious few who watch my content and love it for what it is, all of you see that, and it's great. Without you guys, I would be nothing, or rather it would feel like it's for nothing. It's sort of familiar in a way. You know, the way that, like, as a game master, it doesn't matter how much time and effort and love I put into, like, crafting a D&D world if I don't have players to play it. You know, a burger without a grill. You know, it becomes our world, our problems, our laughs, not just mine. So when I look back at the end of this year, everything I've done and everything I've missed the opportunity for and everything I've studied and researched and fought for, I want to thank you all. And to do that, I'm going to be doing a little giveaway. It's not much, I know, but it's my way of saying thank you and a little bit more. I'm going to be mailing out one of my favorite hand-painted models, an adult brass dragon I made when I was first getting into editing. It's one of the very first models that I ever painted, and I'm so proud of it, and I love it so much. And I will miss him. He's my little guy, but like, I think it's symbolic of like showing support to people who show you support. You know, and if he finds a home somewhere where someone was supporting me and helping me achieve my dream, it'll be well worth wherever he goes. And I know whoever's going to receive it is going to treat him well. And I hope you do. It took me forever to paint. And all you have to do to apply for this is, all you have to do is like this video, leave a comment, and most importantly, for this entire upcoming year of 2026, for my sake and yours, do a little bit more for those around you. And this isn't me asking you to like go volunteer at a food pantry or pick up a ladle at a soup kitchen. Not that you also shouldn't do that, but that's not what I'm asking here. So many people all around the world are trying so hard to bring everyone down. They claw and rip and tear down the rest of us just to lift themselves up a little bit. And it sucks, man. Like, genuinely, like, I'll get comments on videos and like shorts and stuff, and it'll be like, at first it stings, and then it's more like, man, where's this person's like joy and like whimsy? Where did we go wrong where everything that's genuine and heartfelt and honest is like discouraged? And I just think everyone trying a little harder to lift everyone else around them up a little bit and take care of themselves isn't that much to ask. During this year, just check in on those people around you. Ask if they're okay. During this year, take care of yourselves, exercise, and try new things for those who love you. Try again on bridges that you regret burning. Just do what you can with what you got and go do some good. And I wish I had the money to send you all a little holiday bonus, but as it stands, I can send one of you a very special Christmas gift, and then the rest of you will get this amazing video, you're welcome, made of my blood, sweat, and tears. I hope each and every one of you have an amazing winter holiday. And to the future version of me and everyone else, thank you for everything, for all the hard work and dedication and stress and especially the love. Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm looking forward to everything 2026 will throw at me. Come back next time for a much, much, much smaller and very, very, very easier to edit video. Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.